Good evening. I'd like to talk to you tonight about serving. And whenever we go to serve others, whether it's in a customer service setting, when you're speaking to somebody over the phone or face to face, or whenever you are in hospitality and food service. Specifically, my examples tonight will be maintained around the food service industry as it'll be easier to follow. As a service manager, many times I had particular rules that I always had my servers to follow under, and I'm still a stickler for that now, even though I've been out of it now for about 2 years. Whenever I go to eat out, whether it's at a McDonald's or whether it's at some hibachi grill or some 5-star restaurant up in Birmingham, I'm very particular about the service. And it doesn't matter to me, if I'll go in there with a pair of jeans and a ripped up t-shirt, or if I'm in the finest evening gown. You should always treat your guest right. Treat them pleasant, treat them with respect, and treat them with dignity. I mean, you never know that person. I've had the grungiest old man walk into me, and you think the man doesn't own a penny to his name, and he whip out $100, and that's your tip for the night. Right there. So just never judge your book by cover, first and foremost. The second rule I'd always like to say, is just be pleasant. Don't ever go with an attitude. You never know what that other person is dealing with in their life. I had a gentleman one evening. He came up to me, thankfully he gave us a full warning, and he's like, I'm going to sit at this table here for 2 hours. I just came back from the funeral of my mother. There's going to be a lot of tears. There's going to be a lot of angry words. Just bring the wine bottle. We're going to sit here and finish it, and just know, I appreciate the patience. And that's exactly what we did. Anytime I saw that his table was empty with napkins, I went ahead and refilled it immediately. Made sure he had some water, and him and his wife sat there and they grieved the loss of his mother. But I was pleasant about it, and lended any kind of assistance that was necessary. But I allowed them their space because that's what was requested. And it leads right into the next thing of make sure that you're following through with your customers' request, no matter what it may be. If they want spaghetti with meatballs, but they want the marinara on the side, read back to them to ensure that that's in fact what, make sure you understand what they want. Because whenever the food is delivered to a guest, they don't just eat with their mouths. Nobody ever eats with their mouths first. You always eat with your eyes, then followed by your nose, then followed by, surprisingly, your hands. As you go to touch that plate or that fork, you can feel if it's hot or not. And then, of course, and if the dish is supposed to be hot, then, of course, you want it to be hot. And if it's supposed to be cold, then, of course, you want it to be cold. You don't want your salad delivered in a steaming hot bowl, then your lettuce is going to be all wilted. It's absolutely disgusting. But none of that has hit your mouth yet. That is all still your eyes, your nose, and your hands. Your mouth is what gets it last. Then, of course, you want the flavors to be bursting in there and to enjoy them. Now, whenever you're speaking with your guest, you want to make sure, of course, get it right. Recheck with them that this is in fact what they want. Then once that's rechecked, go ahead and deliver that to the chef immediately. If there are special orders in there, make sure that's always put in there specifically. And in the back of your mind, I know that they said they wanted the sauce on the side. I know he said that he's allergic to strawberries. I know that he said that he needed to have his steak medium rare. Whatever the specification is, yourself, regardless of what the chef's doing, because they have 20 other plates that they're cooking and making with all different kinds of specifications. You have that person, or you may have 5 other tables, but you still have a smaller number that you must always keep in check. Now, to being observant, it's not really specifically step 3 or rule 3. It is something that should always be going on from the moment they walk into our property to the moment that they leave, to always be observant, because it tells you what's about to happen. When they come in through that door, if they're smiling and happy, okay, you can keep that mood going. If they're not so much and they're not too happy to be here, or if they're stressed out, or in some cases of alcohol, if you can tell that they are already intoxicated, don't even offer it. Some states won't allow you to. So just to be observant. If your guest's drink goes empty, and this is a huge one with my husband, never allow a drink to go empty. And the reason for that is it shows that you are not paying attention, that you don't care. And I mean, most people think that he's just a heavy drinker. Yes, and if I know that my husband's going to drink a quick drink, such as his favorite one is from IHOP, there's a cold coffee that I have to go ahead and order 2 of them. I'll tell her, go ahead and bring 2 of them to the table. And for at least the first 2 refills, you need to bring 2 glasses because he drinks them very quickly. He enjoys them. They're also smaller glasses. That's another thing. Now, obviously, I'm not going to order two alcoholic beverages at one time and expect him to drink them quickly. That's irresponsible. But, for a glass of tea or a Mountain Dew of a large size glass, there's no need for it to ever go empty. That's ridiculous. That's just showing you're not paying attention. Another thing is cleaning around tables. And what I mean by that is okay, you're closing up on your shift and you have one table still at the end. Well, you decide to break out that vacuum cleaner because you're ready to go home. I understand that you may have pulled a double. I have been there and I have done that. And I know that it can get lousy. But I wouldn't go breaking out my vacuum cleaner when I have guests in the area. I would not go get a Sandy bucket and put it on the table that is next to my guest and begin to wipe and clean and all of that. That's rude to me. That's very rude. The image of a Sandy bucket next to me while I eat conjures up nasty, disgusting. That's the first thing that pops into my head is, ew, that's nasty. And then I look at my plate. Ew, is that nasty? Question mark. So be mindful. It goes right back to being observant of your surroundings because the customer is going to be observant too. Even if they're sitting there having a conversation, they're still paying attention to what's going on. And you bending over there with a Sandy bucket that's bubbles and water sloshing everywhere and you're slinging crumbs onto the floor makes you wonder, are you slinging crumbs onto my plate? Let's not do that. Now, another thing is whenever it comes down to if you've made a O and there's a correction that is needed. Let's say, for example, this young lady I went to have lunch with, I had ordered tempura shrimp. Now, tempura shrimp is a crunchy shrimp. It is more or less, it's a fried shrimp. So when she brought me my plate, my shrimp was bare. There was no kind of dressing on it at all. And I asked her, I said, is this tempura shrimp? And she says, oh yeah, it is. I've already asked the chef. I don't feel like this is. Okay, that's the second time now that I've objected. I don't feel that this is what I have ordered. Oh yes, it is. I've already asked the chef. Okay, so at this point in time, I'm trying to think of how nicely I'm going to put this. The girl walks away. She returns back, and I just so actually happen to have tempura vegetables on my tray. And she was bringing my appetizer, which actually was an additional tempura vegetables that I had ordered for my son to eat. And I said, what is this? And she goes, oh, that's tempura vegetables. I said, yes, that's right. I said, what is this? And she says, oh, that's tempura shrimp. I said, no, it's not. Okay, let's go over it again. This is crunchy vegetables and fried. This is not. Something's wrong here. No, the chef said that that's what that is. Well, I'm sorry, but I don't think that this is. Well, I'll go talk to him again. So now I've made at least 5 objections that I do not believe that the food that is in front of my plate is in fact mine. Now, what should have happened in this situation was immediately when the plate is set before the guest and the guest is like, I don't know if this is mine. Okay, immediately remove the plate because you're taking it away from their eyes. They've not touched it. They may or may not have smelled it. That's not really the point at this area, but they're no longer looking at it. Something's not right. We need to find out what's wrong. Immediately take the plate, apologize, and say, let me verify this, and take it back to the kitchen. And have the kitchen, in fact, verify whether it is what was ordered or where it needs to go. Because those are 2 main things. Is it going to the right table? And is this, in fact, what that guest ordered? Now, in this situation, she chose not to do so. She returned back to the kitchen instead, so the plate is still remaining in front of me. And of course, a 4-year-old was a 4-year-old. He went ahead and began eating I think it was oranges that was on the tray. So she comes back out, and this time she actually has the plate that I ordered in her hand. And she has my husband's, and then she has my son's French fries, I think is what he got. And she said, oh, this isn't yours. This is actually your food. Removes the incorrect plate and puts the other food in front of me, which was, in fact, correct. It was tempura shrimp because it was about a mountain because fried shrimp it sits high. So She takes it back to the kitchen immediately, and she returns to the other table. There was only one other lady in the restaurant. Returns to the other table and then flat out says, where I can hear it, "I'm sorry, somebody else was eating your food. We're making you fresh." Okay, well, that goes right back to being observant. You know, your guests just saw you do that. You're blaming them for an error that you've made. You did not correct it. Now you've made another error. You've made another problem for another guest. So at this point in time, luckily there was a senior server that stepped in, which is what should have happened at that point in time to make any kind of corrections on both parties that needed. Now, being courteous and being swift, that plays right into that previous scenario. You know, be courteous to that individual. Servers in Alabama get paid $2.13 an hour. You don't make $20 an hour being rude, being slow, and not being observant. These things that I've listed tonight of being the pleasant, being right, rechecking your food, being observant, and making corrections as needed, and being courteous and swift, these things is what gets you a tip, and you can make $20, $30 an hour, or even $100 an hour depending on your location and what type of restaurant you're working in. This is also true when a fast food restaurant makes that shift a lot easier to get along with when you are courteous to that individual instead of just, "It's 12 o'clock at night. I'm ready to close up. What do you want? 20 burgers? I'm sorry. We closed the grill." No, you are still making that money. You're still making that opportunity to reach out to somebody. You know what? That person may have had to scrounge up in their car that $2 and something to get that burger so they have something to eat. And they're getting off a 14-hour shift. You know, you never know what somebody else is going to. So just always be courteous and be thankful that you even have the opportunity to touch another person in their life. And that's just always one of the rules I always want to play on is I'm on a stage. I can be anybody that I want to be. Why not be somebody happy and influence another individual to have a good day? So anyway, this is my particular viewpoint on servers and how honestly that it should go down when you're serving, whether it's food, customer service, or even retail. You should always think about that other individual. The golden rule of treat others how you want to be treated stands true today in just about every aspect. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast and you have a fantastic evening.